As we have discussed earlier, so there are two types of predominantly there are two types of jobs. One is freestyle job and pipeline job. So we have seen the freestyle job examples using Maven, and we have built it and we have versioned the artifacts. So now let's jump into pipeline jobs. So now we are going to build pipelines. Okay, so now let's see what is a Jenkins pipeline first. What is a Jenkins pipeline? Jenkins pipeline, or simply just a pipeline with a capital P, is a suite of plugins which supports implementing and integrating continuous delivery pipelines into Jenkins. So a continuous delivery pipeline is an automated expression of your process of getting software or source code from version control right through to your users and customers. That's called continuous delivery. So every change to your software, that's every change that is done to your source code committed in source control goes through a complex process on its way to being released. And this process involves building the software in a reliable and repeatable manner, as well as progressing the built software. We call it as a build through multiple stages of testing and deployment. So pipeline provides an extensible set of tools for modeling simple to complex delivery pipelines as code. We call this as a PaaS or PaaS, P-A-S, P-A-S pipeline as a code. So via the pipeline domain specific language syntax, DSL. So pipeline as code, treating the CD pipeline a part of the application to be versioned and reviewed like any other code. So creating a Jenkins files and committing it to source control provides a number of immediate benefits. So what are those? The benefits of creating a Jenkins files. The first one is automatically creates a pipeline a build process for all branches and pull requests. And two, code review or iteration on the pipeline along with the remaining source code. And three, audit trail for the pipeline. And fourth, single source of truth for the pipeline, so which can be viewed and edited by multiple members of the project. So while the syntax for defining a pipeline in either in the web UI or with a Jenkins file is the same, it is generally considered best practice to define the pipeline in a Jenkins file and check that it into a source control. So now let's see the difference between a declarative versus a scripted pipeline syntax. So declarative versus scripted. Declarative, a Jenkins file can be written using two types of syntax, declarative and scripted. Declarative and scripted pipelines are constructed fundamentally differently. So declarative pipeline is a more recent feature of Jenkins pipeline which provides a richer syntactical features over a scripted pipeline syntax and is designed to make writing and reading pipeline code easier. So many of the individual syntactical components or steps are written into a Jenkins file, however, are common to both declarative and scripted pipeline. But why we require a pipeline? That's the next question. So Jenkins is fundamentally an automation engine which supports a number of automation patterns. Pipeline adds a powerful set of automation tools onto Jenkins, supporting use cases that span from a simple continuous integration to comprehensive continuous delivery pipelines. By modeling a series of related tasks, users can take advantage of the many features of pipeline. So, some of the features such as code pipelines are implemented in code and typically checked into source control, so giving teams the ability to edit, review, and iterate upon their delivery pipeline. Two, durable. Why we require a pipeline? Because it is durable. Pipelines can survive both planned and unplanned restarts of the Jenkins controller. And third, possible. So possible pipelines can optionally stop and wait for human input or approval before counting the pipeline run. And fourth, versatile. So the pipeline plugin supports custom extensions to its D. So the fourth one is versatile. So here the pipeline supports complex real world continuous delivery and deployment requirements, including the ability to fork or join, loop, and perform work in parallel. So that's the reason we require a pipeline. And we require a pipeline because it is extensible. The pipeline plugin supports custom extensions to its DSL and multiple options for integration with other plugins. So while Jenkins has always allowed rudimentary forms of chaining freestyle jobs together to perform a sequential tasks, however, Pipeline makes the concept a first class citizen in Jenkins. Now let's have a glimpse of continuous delivery pipeline and how it looks. So as usual, it begins with a developer. A developer has committed and pushed the code into their repo and their branch name. Then once it is committed and pushed into the GitHub, from there your actual continuous delivery or deployment pipeline starts. Yes, so the code has been pushed and committed and pushed into the GitHub. So now the first action, the first stage here is SCM checkout. SCM source control checkout. So here in this stage, what are the activities that's going to happen? Collect the dependent repos. You collect the dependent repos. Then after this stage, the output of this stage will move to second stage, while it generates on catch, or finally it builds a report.html. That is one side it goes on. Another side it goes to the second stage, that is build or launch. So the source code which is fetched from the GitHub has been moved to the second stage. Here the activities, in the second stage, the activities that are, it will build the module 1 and parallelly you build module 2, whatever modules that are there, and on the other side parallelly the output, the report will be going to the report.html, and same happens with the every stage. Then it moves to the stage 3. After the build the artifact will be tested thoroughly. So here we will have plenty of tests. One is integration test, smoke test, end to end test, more test, and you will have a more number of tests. So once it is all done, so you will have a test results. The test results will be stored again in some other server. Then the tested application will move to the deployment server. So once that is done, then after the permission, the workflow ends and it will be stored into the production server. That's the continuous delivery and continuous deployment pipeline. So now let's begin our relation with pipeline. Let's till now we have made our rapport, a good rapport. We have built our rapport with the pipeline. Now we are gonna start with pipeline. So as mentioned previously in our previous slides, Jenkins pipeline is a suite of plugins that supports implementing and integrating continuous delivery pipelines into Jenkins. Pipelines provides an extensible set of tools for modeling simple to complex delivery pipelines as code via the pipeline DSL, domain specific language. So in this slide I will describe how to get started with creating your first pipeline project in Jenkins, and introduces you to various ways that a Jenkins file can be created and stored. So prerequisites for this is to use Jenkins pipelines. You'll need Jenkins, the latest version, or uh, after the 2.0 version. Then pipeline plugin is very much required. I have installed the pipeline plugin earlier only. So then nothing much. This is more than enough. So let's get into defining a pipeline first. Okay. Both declarative and scripted pipelines are DSLs to describe portions of your software delivery pipeline. So scripted pipeline is written in a limited form of Groovy script or Groovy syntax. So relevant components of Groovy syntax will be introduced as a required throughout this module. So while an understanding of Groovy is helpful, it's not required to work with a pipeline. So pipeline can be created in one of the following ways. It begins with a blue ocean. So after setting up a pipeline project in Blue Ocean, the Blue Ocean UI, that's user interface, helps you write your pipeline's Jenkins file and commit it to source control. And you can use it through the classic UI, classic user interface. You can enter a basic pipeline directly in the Jenkins through the classic UI. And finally, SCM, you can write a Jenkins file manually, which you can commit to your project source control repository. I will show you. I will demonstrate these things on dashboard. Let me go to the new item and let's just give me a random name. First job 1, first pipeline job, a random name, and scroll down and click on pipeline and click OK. Now the classic UI I'm gonna show. This is what I was saying, classic UI. So you can enter a basic pipeline directly in Jenkins through the here. You can directly enter your basic pipeline. Okay, and you can enter stage. So this is our basic through classic UI. And another way, you write your Jenkins file manually in your personal computer, and then you push that to the GitHub repository, and you fetch from GitHub repository and use it as a Jenkins file. That is a second way. and third way, and the first way is through Blue Ocean. So we are going to do both through the classic QA and through SCM. Both we are going to do. So now let's take one example, that is through the classic UI. Okay, through the classic UI example we're gonna take here. So a Jenkins file created using classic UI is stored by Jenkins itself within the Jenkins home directory. Okay, so let's take this example. It's a declarative pipeline. It's absolutely a declarative pipeline. We will consider this. In this, you see the first agent, a pipeline is opened, and inside that you saw the agent any. This talks about agent instructs. Here agent instructs Jenkins to allocate an executor on any available agent or node in the Jenkins environment and workspace for the entire pipeline. Of course, at this moment we have only one Jenkins server. If you have a few other servers, in that case you can mention the agent, another server you can mention, and you can execute the Jenkins file and run the pipeline in that server from this server. I hope you got it. It's nothing complicated. If you mention agent any, so it's fine, anything will be considered. But if you mention a specific server which is not the present server, then you can execute your pipeline in that server from your presently working server. This is so. Then we have a command echo write simple, a simple string in the console output, and we have a node. Basically, node effectively does the same thing as an agent. So there we have mentioned agent, and it does the same thing. Then after that we will look into the SCM, but for now we will do this. We will demonstrate through the classic UI example. Again, I'll get back to this. So this time, so configure. This is our first pipeline through classic UI. Done. Scroll down a bit. So nothing is required, nothing is required. Just come to the pipeline here. So here you have two options, pipeline script and pipeline script from SCM. So I'm not going with the SCM, I'm just going with the classic UI. So now let me start our pipeline script. So pipe line space and curly braces, enter. So this is our first indentation. Here I will say agent. You can use any agent. Of course we have only one agent, but still I'll say agent any. Then after that we'll start writing our stages. Yes, inside the stages I will mention the first stage, that is stage, and then bracket, the name of the stage is chant. So chant is the name of the stage, or I would say stage 1 chant. Yeah, this is better. Then I would give space and then open a curly braces, and inside that I would write steps, what steps we are going to take inside. Then click, and first one is echo Hare Krishna. Okay, so this is our pipeline, the first script through classic UI. I will save this. You can see that here the symbol pipeline in advanced project options and general. So let me click on save, and let's build this pipeline using script. Using, yes, it's done. You can see that it's successful. The time it has taken for this pipeline, you have only one stage, that is chant. So let me go to the console of this, from here to the console output, and you see that Hare Krishna, stage 1 chant, and then the output of this Hare Krishna, and it is success, and it's successful. That's your first pipeline from, you can see your first pipeline, here it is, first pipeline from Classic UI. If you should also able to do this, a big congratulations to you, and keep up your good work. Fantastic. I will build one more and we'll see. Build scheduled. Second, again successful. Stage 1 chant. So let's go to the workspace. Here nothing much. There is no workspace because it's just a simple commands. So I will execute one more time the same pipeline and we'll see. Absolutely no problem. This is build ID 3, absolutely brilliantly working.